It's Wednesday, December 23. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Carol Francis. On Monday, the Jamaican government instituted a travel ban on flights from the United Kingdom out of concern for a mutated, even more contagious strain of the COVID-19 virus in that country. Members of the opposition are calling on the government to extend the ban to other countries where the mutated strain is said to exist. However, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says there are no immediate plans by the government to extend the ban beyond the United Kingdom. We have more on this issue in this report.
In a release on Tuesday, Shadow spokesman on Health and Wellness Dr. Maurice Guy said although the People's National Party welcomed and supported the United Kingdom travel ban, enough has not been done to safeguard the Jamaican population from the possible risk of infection from the mutated virus. He pointed to other countries where the strain had been detected, namely the Netherlands, South Africa, Denmark, and at least one case in Australia. Dr. Guy called on the government to immediately impose travel restrictions on the nationals of those countries as well. However, in an interview with the Jamaica Gleaner, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton said there are no immediate plans for more bans at this time. He said, quote, "I take advice from the clinical team. As far as I know, we have been dealing with the same issues all along. I don't know of any additional or new information." End quote. The United Kingdom travel ban will last for 2 weeks, ending on January 4, 2021. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
Time now for a track of the latest COVID-19 figures as released by the Health and Wellness Ministry.
2 new deaths related to COVID-19 were reported on Tuesday. They are a 40-year-old male of a Westmoreland address and a 37-year-old female of an Hanover address. Both deaths were previously under investigation. The overall death toll is now at 290. 69 COVID-19 cases were also reported. This brings the overall case count to 12,423. There are now 2,562 active cases. In the meantime, 149 recoveries were reported, pushing that total to 9,416. 69 persons are now in hospital, 8 are showing moderate symptoms, and 7 are critical. Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
An unfortunate aspect of the festive season is the potential increase of traffic accidents. And with road fatalities exceeding 400 so far this year, Education Information Officer of the Road Safety Unit, Camille Brooks, is urging Jamaicans to adhere to the road safety rules to protect themselves and other road users. According to Ms. Brooks, speeding by motorists is of grave concern. She is appealing to road users to observe the speed limits. The information officer is also encouraging road users to plan their routes in advance, particularly with the increased activities during the festive season. In recent years, fireworks have become a more prominent feature of the holiday season, with private individuals staging their own displays. However, the Jamaica Constabulary Force is reminding citizens that the staging of fireworks is illegal without a permit. In an interview with the Jamaica Information Service, head of the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch, Senior Superintendent of Police Gary McKenzie underscored the need for permits.
As it relates to the use of fireworks or firecrackers, that of course is against the law. Permission must be given for that. None will be given in any wide-scale way this year based on what we know. And so we expect that persons will conform. The use of firecrackers, those are illegal. The police will check, and if you are found with it, then you will be prosecuted for the offense.
Under the law, an import permit is required to bring pyrotechnic items such as firecrackers and fireworks into the island. Persons trading these goods must have a license. Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security, Courtney Williams, has been appointed chairman of the National Task Force Against Trafficking in Persons. He succeeds Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology, Carol Palmer. As chairman, Mr. Williams will oversee the work being done to prevent trafficking in persons, protect victims and prosecute offenders in accordance with the National Plan of Action for Combating Trafficking in Persons. He will also assess existing mechanisms and propose other innovative ways to tackle the human trafficking problem. Mr. Williams, who was Deputy Financial Secretary at the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, was appointed Permanent Secretary on October 1 of this year. He has served as Senior Advisor to the Executive Director at the International Monetary Fund in Washington, D.C. One of the realities of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic is the need for businesses to keep staff and customers safe. For that reason, the National Housing Trust will only be accepting applications for contribution refunds online effective January 2021. Contributors may apply for their refunds via the NHT's website at www.nht.gov.jm. That's www.nht.gov.jm. They can also do so via its mobile app, NHT Online, which is available in the Google Play Store and the App Store. She has shared the stage with the legendary Bob Marley, featured as one of the revered I3s, or as one of the Wailers. Beyond the shadow of the late reggae king, she is hailed today as one of reggae's queens. Today is the birthday of internationally acclaimed reggae star turned gospel artist Judy Mowatt. Born in Industry Village in Gordontown, St. Andrew, Judy Mowatt was said to be a great dancer. At the age of 13, she became a member of a dance troupe which toured Jamaica and other islands in the Caribbean. What you may not know is that her initial ambition was to become a registered nurse. More from Marlon Samuels.
Judy Mowatt started singing professionally at age 16. Between 1967 to 1970, she became a member of a group called the Gaylettes. In 1974, Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer, the original Wailer backing vocalists, left the Bob Marley and the Wailers band. A chance encounter with Marcia Griffiths saw her becoming a member of Bob Marley's newly formed backing vocal group, the I3s. Judy Mowatt, who sees herself as a soul healer, went on to create history in 1979. Acting as her own producer, she put out a reggae album called Black Woman. Released in 1980, it was the first reggae album recorded by a woman acting as her own producer. In 1985, she became the first female singer nominated for a Grammy Award in the category of reggae music for her album Working Wonders. She converted to Christianity in the 1990s and now sings gospel music. For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
Many are called, few are chosen. You've got to be aware of the wolf in sheep clothing. Hey, hey, hey.
Our reporter Gabriel Thompson is keeping an eye on the local and some international markets. Time now for the business report.
In Tuesday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index declined by 4,534 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 86 stocks, of which 32 advanced, 38 declined, and 16 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 23 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Access Financial Services Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica, and CAC 2000 9.5% preference shares. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference, 1834 Investments Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were Caribbean Cement Company, Caribbean Producers Jamaica, and Siboney Group Limited. Pulse Investments Limited was the volume leader with 6.2 million units, followed by Lasco Distributors Limited with 4.9 million units and Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with 4.3 million units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Tuesday, December 22, ended trading at $143.74. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $111.20. The pound sterling traded for $191, and the euro ended trading at $178.48. Oil steadied on Wednesday after earlier losses sparked by an unexpected rise in U.S. crude oil inventories and as President Donald Trump rattled markets by threatening not to sign a long-awaited U.S. COVID-19 relief bill. Brent crude futures were up 12 cents to $50.20 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures climbed 9 cents to $47.11 a barrel. And that does it for this edition of the Business Report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
Jamaica, like other nations, has moved to decriminalize the use of marijuana, allowing for the use of cannabis for medical purposes. There are many pluses for medical marijuana, but there are potential downsides. In this episode of Living Healthy, HD Jazz explores the issue of marijuana and its effect on dental health.
Hi, I'm HD. Welcome to another episode of HD's Jazz. What am I talking about today? Marijuana. The smoke signals. Like everything else, marijuana has good and not so good properties. But I want to speak to you specifically about marijuana and the effects in your mouth. Do you know that there is a relationship, a correlation between the smoking of marijuana and periodontal disease? Periodontium is the supporting tissue, the soft tissue being the gums, and the hard tissue, the bone underneath that hold your teeth in place. So be careful if you're smoking that spliff. Also, the THC, one of the main active ingredients in ganja, tends to interfere with your salivary flow, so you're very prone to having dry mouth. Now, if you have dry mouth, then you don't have that flushing, cleaning action of the saliva, so you're more prone to have tooth decay and bad mouth odor. Listen. Do you know that when you smoke marijuana, it opens your appetite and you're very likely to have a lot of sugary snacks? So again, you may be prone to a lot more tooth decay than the average. One more thing that is a little more serious is something that we call a leukoplakia. Fancy name, it just means these precancerous white lesions that may form in your mouth when you smoke tobacco or marijuana. The combination of cigarettes and marijuana makes you even more likely to have precancerous lesions. So if this is something you're going to indulge in, see your dentist regularly. And if it is that you've just smoked some spliff, sometimes it makes your heart race. And if the dentist gives you anesthetic while your heart is racing from the marijuana, it can prolong that tachycardia, that heart racing. So we have to make sure that everybody is well informed as to what's happening with you. So smoke your spliff, but be mindful of the oral manifestations. And as we say in Jamaica, no problem. So I'm back on my trail, my hiking trail. But remember the smoke signals for marijuana or ganja, cannabis, whatever you call it. Listen, I am out of here. Catch you next time. Facebook, YouTube, and our LFD website. See you next time on HD's Jazz.
In regional news, a group of Bahamian fishing companies, foreign fishermen and their wives have written to the Bahamian Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources requesting that the Fisheries Bill 2020 be put on hold to allow consultation on the matter. The bill, which was passed unanimously in both the Houses of Assembly and Senate, bans foreign fishermen from engaging in commercial fishing. Kyle Walkin reports.
Said it's a beautiful thing that former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram as well as former Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest spoke up on the issue, but he said this is a stance the government needs to take.
Sometimes you could legally discriminate, and you see that with police officers in other areas.
The Fisheries Bill 2020 prevents non-Bahamian citizens, including spouses of Bahamians, from engaging in commercial fishing. The provision has generated pushback in some quarters, but the minister told reporters on Tuesday that the government isn't breaking any laws, as sometimes discrimination is legal.
Persons can't just come to Salami and decide want to be an MP, and you're not a citizen, or a senator, or police officer, or any varied number of areas.
On Monday, several wives and children of foreign fishermen called for the government to reconsider its stance on the bill, calling it offensive. However, Johnson says the bill, in his opinion, goes beyond immigration issues or even marriages. He said there are times when non-Bahamian citizens should stay out of Bahamians' business.
Being a citizen is more than just a vote. And I tell people, if you want to, there are certain things that only a citizen could participate in this country, right? And I also just tell people, if you're not a citizen, then you should stay out of our business and allow us to do certain things.
Among the more prominent critics of the bill is former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram, who in a letter to the editor called the provision pointedly discriminatory. Ingram says it undermines the Free National Movement's record of promoting equality. He added that the offending provision will overwhelmingly, if not exclusively, have a negative impact on the foreign-born husbands of Bahamian women. The former Prime Minister's stance is in line with comments made by East Grand Bahama MP Peter Turnquest, who last week cautioned the nation against heading down a slippery slope. But despite concerns, the bill was passed in the Senate on Monday.
I've heard the former Prime Minister, and it's beautiful in a constitutional democracy that people could come forward and make their wishes known. But at the end of the day, the government is to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance of this country, and that is in the best interest of this country.
As he pointed to the significance of the fishing industry to the local economy, Johnson insisted that some jobs ought to be reserved for Bahamians.
For more than 10 years, Adrian, LaRoda, and everybody has been arguing about this. And it's more than just, we're looking at the entire you preserve species. How do you do research? How do you do all these different things? So for more than 10 years, everybody vacillating back and forth. And action is now taken.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
The Guyanese government and the China Harbour Engineering Company have entered into an agreement that will see additional work being done at the Chedicjagan International Airport. We have more in this report.
To the tune of $9 million. The cost is to be covered by the contractor, China Engineering Company. Under the new agreement, there will be an extension of the airport's boarding corridor in order to accommodate 2 more passenger boarding bridges. That move will provide the airport with a total of 6 boarding bridges capable of servicing aircraft such as the Boeing 777, Dreamliner, the Airbus, and similar transatlantic aircraft. Additionally, the contractor has agreed to extend the terminal building to provide accommodation for additional commercial space, such as food courts and duty-free shops. The extended building will feature a modern airport facade covering the full length of the departure terminal. The government said the China Harbour Engineering Company has also agreed to rectify and complete all outstanding remedial works within prescribed timelines. All of the works are to be now completed by the end of next year. The agreement was signed by the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Works, Vladimir Prasad, on behalf of the government, and the project manager of China Harbours, Mr. Liu Qilong.
Owners of public service vehicles in Barbados want Transport Board drivers who disobey the COVID-19 protocols to be taken off the island's roads. We have more in this report.
Communications and Marketing Officer at the Alliance Owners of Public Transport, Mark Haynes, contends that it would be unfair for the COVID-19 monitoring unit to discipline PSV drivers and conductors but allow transport board drivers to get off scotch-free. His comments come on the heels of a report that a transport board driver was reported by the unit for not properly wearing his mask last Tuesday. However, while PSV operators have been pulled off the road for 7 days for a similar infraction, it was unclear whether the driver in question was disciplined.
I would think that if a PSV commits an infraction of this nature and he's penalized, the same should apply for the government. But notwithstanding that they may have internal discipline measures to take against him or her who is driving the bus, the same unit should apply the same penalties to the transport board, because it would not be fair and equitable and reasonable to report the PSV sector and do not report the government-owned bus whose driver commits an infraction. The same should apply. So I do not think it augurs well for the image of the unit, of the COVID-19 monitoring unit, not to report the bus driver once he has committed an infraction.
In sports, we are sticking with athletics. President of the Inter-Secondary Schools Sports Association, ISSA, Keith Wellington, is moving to assure parents and other stakeholders that plans to stage the 2021 ISSA Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletics Championships will be done with the utmost safety.
As principals, we understand that you depend heavily on the participation of schools. But from a principal perspective, we also know that there are concerns amongst our principals about the safety of our kids being involved in these activities. And therefore, we're trying to ensure that you are able to give the assurance to our principals that these meets are going to be safe and they can participate in these meets. They can allow the students to turn out at these meets because the risk of them being infected is going to be very low. And therefore, we can have the meets go ahead. And of course, you can contribute to this preparation process for champs.
Speaking in a recent virtual meeting, he pointed to the recent successful staging of the Tizer Mills Classics at Calabar High School as a signal of things to come. Champs 2021 will reflect all the health and safety protocols consistent with the government's mandate. And that's our package. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same place, for more news and sports right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.